أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV. Joining us today for our 6th episode in the series The Life of Amir al-Mu'mineen is none other than Sayyid Ali. Salamun alaikum, Sayyid Ali.
Salamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you keeping?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Today we have quite a beautiful episode. We have the expulsion of Benu Nadir to analyze at the beginning. And then the main segment of the episode is the birth of Imam Hussein, Sayyid al-Shuhada. So it's two quite significant sort of occurrences in the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen. To start off with, I wanted to ask, who is this tribe of Benu Nadir? And what exactly occurred with them? What was this incident and altercation with them?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. As we briefly spoke about the Jewish tribes that inhabited the holy city of Medina,
yes,
in the previous episodes when we spoke about Bani Qaynuqa, again, one of the important or the main tribes that inhabited the holy city of Medina, or Yathrib in those days, were a tribe by the name of Benu Nadir.
Okay.
Alongside other tribes who belong to the Jewish community, which we'll come to discuss in the future episode. But in this episode, Benu Nadir, historically, there have been different opinions about the origination of this tribe,
okay,
or this group of people. Some come to say that they are originally from the lineage of Kahin, son of Harun,
okay, yeah,
son of Imran. So their ancestors originate from the lineage of Musa alayhi salam.
okay.
And then they moved to this part of Arabia as a result of one opinion saying that they had in their sacred scriptures that the final or the next messenger or prophet is going to come from this part of the world. And they having in their beliefs that they are the best of communities, or they are the best of nations. So they wanted, as before, that all of the prophets or the final messenger will be from them. So that's why they moved. And their move from Jerusalem or from Palestine or from Sham in those days, yep, to Arabia was a tactical, strategical move.
Okay, I see.
This is one opinion. The other opinion is that the origination is from Bani Israel, but then because they lived in that part of Arabia, they became one of the prominent Arabian clans and tribes.
Okay, I see.
That's why some of the tribes may have or carry Arabic names, but originally they are from the Jewish community. Another opinion is that when the Romans attacked Sham, or that part of the world, they attacked them and they kind of annihilated the Jewish community in that part of Sham. So to keep themselves or to save the remainder of the community,
yeah,
they moved and they congregated in the area or the location of Yathrib, joining the other Jewish communities that were living in that area.
So to build a stronghold.
To build a stronghold and also to save themselves, because the Romans tried to come after the Jewish community after they came to Yathrib, so they can annihilate them.
Yeah.
As a result of their involvement in uprisings and doing things against the Romans.
Sure.
So the Romans' army was annihilated in the deserts, and it's a long story. So originally they are from Bani Israel, at least Bani Qurayza and Benu Nadir.
Yeah.
Banu Qaynuqa, they say they are from the lineage of Prophet Yusuf, as some historians mention.
Yeah, sure.
So they lived in the outskirts of the city of what is to be called Medina, or was called Medina. They were there before pre-Islamic era. So when the Muslims and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam moved or migrated from Mecca to Medina, they were already there with established orchards and date palms and their fortresses and their homes and their businesses.
I see.
So what is so significant about this tribe and this clan, or this community at least, is that when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as we mentioned in the previous episode, moved to Medina, he established a government, the first Islamic government. And part of the establishment of any government is to ensure the safety and security of the government and the people under that umbrella. So one of the things that Rasulullah done was he signed a treaty, he prepared a document which outlined the responsibilities of this government to the Christians, to the Ahlul Kitab, to the Christians and the Jews, and to those tribes and clans in Medina and outside Medina, and what they have to do in return to what the government is going to provide for them and support them.
Sure.
So they all agreed according to the points in this treaty, in this constitution. And one of the things that they agreed upon was that if there was to happen, because Rasulullah sees the future, knows that Quraysh and the pagans will not sit down and just watch the growth of the Islamic Ummah and the government. So Rasulullah told them that there might be a possibility that we will be attacked, we will be involved in a battle. What we want from you is, if you do not want to support us, you don't want to stand next to us, at least be neutral. And do not provide any kind of services to the enemies. So they agreed. But what happened later on is the Battle of Badr happened, and it showed the power of the Muslims and the defeat of the pagans and the mushrikeen of Quraysh. And then the mushrikeen of Quraysh, i.e. Abu Sufyan and his companions, wanted to seek revenge. So the event of the Battle of Uhud happened, which again, it wasn't a victory for Quraysh, and it wasn't really a set defeat for the Muslims. Because Quraysh wanted to annihilate and kill, assassinate the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they believed that by killing Rasulullah, they are going to wipe out Islam. So they didn't achieve their main goal. So that wasn't a success, even though the outcome of maybe the battle might have been that they were able to kill Hamza and they were able to kill the big number of the Muslims. But again, at the same time, it wasn't a victory for the Muslims as a sense. So when the Jewish community noticed the let's say the defeat of the Muslims in Uhud, that encouraged them to work against this rising government, so they can be on top of and in control of Medina, and to annihilate this religion, which is headed by an individual who was a prophet but is not from the Jewish community.
So it's interesting that you've mentioned this. Now that you've mentioned that the Quraysh sort of took that victory, or their so-called victory of Uhud, and the Yahud also tried to use it. They tried to utilize it. So there's an incident which is known as the incident of Bir Ma'una. So does this link into this in any way?
Bir Ma'una is an incident where, after the events of Uhud, the Battle of Uhud, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam marries Zainab, an individual, a lady from a very prominent Arabian tribe. And sometimes Rasulullah would get into these kind of marriages, maybe for political reasons, maybe for social reasons. So the head of the tribe of Zainab comes to invite Rasulullah to send companions or teachers to educate his tribe in Islamic knowledge and studies. So Rasulullah sends 40 of the companions who are most learned, who are experts in preaching and inviting people towards Islam and its teachings. So when they reach Bir Ma'una, an area which there is a well and it's called Bir Ma'una, 38 of those individuals are attacked by another tribe,
Yeah.
which were pagans, which had strong connections with Quraysh. So what they do is they attack the 40, the group or the teachers, and they kill 38 of them.
Ya Allah.
One of them, one of the 40, who survives, on his way back towards Medina, under the impression that the clan that they had been invited by
Yeah.
were the people that attacked them,
Yeah.
meaning that he thought that these guys betrayed us.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So he sees two of its affiliate members and he kills them.
Okay.
So one of the survivors of the 40, coming back to Medina, he sees two individuals who belong to that main inviting tribe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he kills them, not knowing that they were not the tribe that attacked.
He thinks he's taking revenge, rather he's causing more.
He's
of a
taking
distress.
revenge, but from the wrong
Exactly.
people.
Yeah, yeah.
So the news reaches Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Now here Rasulullah, being the prophet who preaches justice, says that the blood of these two individuals has been spilt unjustly,
Sure.
because there was a misunderstanding. So who does he go to? He said, Rasulullah says the blood money has to be paid by the government. We are responsible to pay. And at that time, because Benu Nadir, they had an agreement between themselves and between that inviting
Tribe. Yeah.
tribe, Rasulullah invites Benu Nadir to help the Muslims and to help the government in the financial support of paying the blood money.
Of course. Yeah. Fair enough.
Because there is an agreement between the Islamic government and between Benu Nadir.
Yeah.
And Benu Nadir being, financially they were very well off. So Rasulullah, because you are our allies, we want you to help us financially. And because you have good ties with the other tribe as well, so that's going to make things easier.
Yeah. It's like a friend of a friend.
Ahsant.
In a sense, yeah.
For Rasulullah was then, when he requested this financial help, Benu Nadir invited Rasulullah and his companions to visit Benu Nadir
Sure.
in their fortresses.
Okay.
When Rasulullah attended the invitation, it's as if Rasulullah received a call from the heavens, from the sky. Jibreel came down and told the Holy Prophet that, "O Prophet of Allah, be careful. This Banu Nadir are plotting to kill you."
I see. Okay.
Because Rasulullah, to some narrations, as he was entering the fortress from the main door, or when he entered and was invited to sit and lean behind the wall of a house,
Yeah.
where Banu Nadir or some of the Jewish community had sent one of their strong men on top of the roof to throw a rock or a stone,
Like a boulder to squash.
a boulder
Yeah.
from the top to fall on top of the Holy Prophet and kill him.
Astaghfirullah.
For Rasulullah was told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "O Prophet of Allah, save yourself." The companions were there. Rasulullah made it seem as if he's going to do something quickly or to attend something urgent. He did not tell them where he was going. Rasulullah leaves the fortress of Bani Nadir and goes back to Medina. His companions, some of them remain waiting.
Yep.
So it doesn't give it away that Rasulullah has left.
Sure.
Then when the companions came back and left and Rasulullah never came back, they were waiting.
Yeah.
When the companions came back to Medina, they inquired, "O Prophet of Allah, why did you leave?" Rasulullah informed them that they had plotted an assassination attempt against me. And this breaches the points mentioned in the contract between us and between Bani Nadir.
Yeah.
So hence, thinking of the safety and the security of the Muslims, the head of the state has to make a move. Because security-wise,
Yeah.
this group of people are a threat on the Muslims. So now that they have committed such a treason, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sends Muhammad ibn Muslima or Aslama he sends, because he was from the Aus and they had good ties with the Aus.
Sure.
So he sends him as a messenger and tells, convey my message to Benu Nadir that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, as a result of this act that you were committing against him, he gives you 10 days to leave.
I see. Wow.
Rasulullah is banishing you.
Okay.
You are to be exiled and you are to leave your homes and your fortresses and leave and go.
So similar to what happened with Bani Qaynuqa.
Yeah, when you are, as a result of a treason, you show your animosity against the Islamic Ummah, who did not do anything against you.
Very true.
So you are
not welcome anymore.
Not welcome, and you are an individual who is a security breach.
Yeah, understood.
So some of them write to their allies from the pagans and the munafiqeen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals a whole chapter.
Ya Allah.
Surah Al-Hashr, chapter 59, which is translated in the chapter of exile, where Allah speaks about the exile of Benu Nadir.
Wow, okay.
And highlights the relationship of the munafiqeen who cooperated with Benu Nadir against the Muslims, i.e. Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, who we mentioned his name previously. He was written to by Huyay ibn Akhtab, who was one of the chieftains of Benu Nadir. He writes to Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, informing him that this is what's happened and the Prophet has given us 10 days to leave. Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul, instead of standing alongside the Muslims, again,
he betrays us.
He betrays Rasulullah after he betrayed him when they went out to the battle of Uhud.
Yeah.
When he took away 300 or so of his men and left the Holy Prophet to face the army of Quraysh. Again, he writes to Huyay ibn Akhtab telling him, do not leave.
Yeah.
Remain in your fortress. I have an army of 2,000 men. We will seek help and support from the local clans and tribes.
Yeah.
And Bani Qurayza also will send you support. And if you are to be attacked by the Muslims, I, alongside my men, will come and will enter the fortress and will defend you.
Ya Allah. Okay.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hashr also explains the lies of the munafiqeen and the hypocrites in this. And all of these events have lessons for us.
Of course, yeah.
Inshallah, we will touch upon some of them. So the whole event of Bir Ma'una is that teachers or companions that were sent to teach those who were to become Muslims in the neighboring tribes to the city of Medina were attacked and they were killed. And Rasulullah wanted at the same time to test the sincerity of Banu Nadir, whether they will support the Muslims in their difficult times or not.
Yeah.
And this is the outcome of what happened when Banu Nadir showed their animosity against Rasulullah and the Muslims.
So, now that we've sort of drawn to a conclusion, so just to summarize in a sense, which you've done quite beautifully, it is now two tribes which we've discussed of the Yahud, of the Jews, that have sort of betrayed Rasulullah and he sent them into expulsion. And it's interesting that the same guy played a role in both Uhud by leaving Rasulullah, and then now he's coming back to say that, you know what, if you guys need men, I'm here to back you. So it shows the sort of hypocrisy that was still quite present.
The second time he also didn't do as he had said, that he will go and support Banu Nadir.
Oh wow, so a true coward.
So Rasulullah, after the first time sending his messenger saying, leave peacefully, and this time when I tell you leave, the Rasulullah didn't set boundaries of what they can take and how they should leave.
Okay, fine.
Rasulullah told them, leave, whatever you can take with you. Just leave. But the fact that they replied to Rasulullah after this hypocrite showing that he's going to support them, Huyay ibn Akhtab, or the leader of the tribe of Banu Nadir, wrote to Rasulullah and said that we will never leave and do whatever you want.
Wow, okay.
So they declined the offer of Rasulullah
Interesting.
to leave peacefully.
Yeah.
Rasulullah then goes with the Muslims and forms a siege around Benu Nadir. Again, they didn't take their opportunity to leave peacefully. They were under siege for roughly around 2 weeks, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam established a tent to observe the Muslims and how this event is going to unfold. The first sign of animosity and war started from Benu Nadir, where one of their main archers shot an arrow onto the tent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where Amirul Mu'mineen sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with a very good tactic, he was able to draw him closer to him and kill him and annihilate the group of people that were around him. So because there was this skirmish, this minor skirmish between Imam Ali and that group of armed men of Benu Nadir, Rasulullah told them that now, because you've done what you have done and you did not leave, I command that you only take a camel each.
Wow.
Family takes a camel load only, whatever you can put on a camel, one camel per family, and you are not allowed to take your weapons, and your tools and the rest of your belongings remain.
Okay, fine.
And still they weren't convinced. Rasulullah ordered the Muslims to start cutting down the date palms, one of their most important agricultural properties of Benu Nadir was the date palms, because they had cultivated for years until they reached that status of high and rich income that was coming as a result of the date palms. Rasulullah wanted to show them that if you still remain in your footsteps, I will annihilate your orchards.
Wow, okay, fine.
So then when they noticed this, which was very dear to them, the date palms were dear to the farmers, so they submitted. Some of them, they went to Sham, and some of them, they retreated to the fortress of Khaybar, which inshallah
we'll discuss
in the due course. So here, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they left, took again what remained of their wealth and of their properties, and distributed it amongst, as the verse of the Quran was revealed, O prophets of Allah, distribute what you have of the wealth and of the booties of Benu Nadir amongst the muhajirin, the poor muhajirin that left everything for the sake of Islam, sacrificed everything, and they didn't take whatever they had. Give it to those poor muhajirin who are kind of being a burden upon the Ansar of the Medina.
I see. SubhanAllah, we don't realize sometimes, we think Allah takes from us and then He giveth back when we don't even realize.
So whatever you sacrifice for the sake of your religion and for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah won't forget it. Allah will repay you and maybe give it to you twofolds or threefolds in this dunya before the hereafter.
I think that's a beautiful conclusion to that segment. And now to move on to a segment which is, I think, even more beautiful in a sense, because we discussed last time the birth of Imam Al-Hussain. But now we have the birth of Imam Al-Hussain, Sayyid al-Shuhada, a birth which, in itself was a miracle. The pregnancy was only 6 months. The way that he spoke to Sayyidah Zahra in the womb. But I wanted to ask you, what was the reaction of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Rasulullah upon the birth of Imam Al-Hussain in the house?
Ahsantum. So because we're discussing the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, these events had a significant role to play in the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi. So there is a mixed reaction in that time span with Amir al-Mu'mineen. Before the event of Uhud, Amir al-Mu'mineen has his first son, Imam al-Hussain, born. And then the events of Uhud unfold, which places, which clarifies the sincerity of the Muslims towards Rasulullah and Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. So Amir al-Mu'mineen there, he is analyzing the honesty of those around him and around Rasulullah, and their sincerity towards the commands of the Holy Prophet and the commands of Islam, and whether they are sincere and honest when they say that they are strong, faithful believers, or when it's time that they desert the Holy Prophet, they leave and they attend to their worldly interests. And then after the event of Uhud, Amir al-Mu'mineen Salatullahi wa Salamu alayhi is gifted with his second son, Al-Imam Al-Hussain Salamullahi alayhi. The significance of the birth of Imam Al-Hussain in the life of Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, i.e. Amir al-Mu'mineen Fatima Zahra, is as such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to inform his Prophet and his progeny that you may be going through difficulties as a result of the treacherous behavior of the hypocrites, Ahlul Kitab. They say one thing and the next day they go against what they say. But at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not left you alone, and He will continue supporting you. How will Allah support the Holy Messenger? Sometimes we see Allah supporting the Holy Prophet and supporting the Muslims by sending angels and malaika to help them on the battlefield.
Sure.
Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down verses of the Holy Quran to relieve the Muslims of some of the pressures of the battles, to make their faith in Allah and the Holy Prophet stronger. And sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends special assistance for Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And that could be in the picture or the image of a newborn child. Now, what does a newborn child mean? Specifically to Amir al-Mu'mineen, to Rasulullah and Fatima Zahra. It means that these children are not normal children.
Of course.
These are the continuation of the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I.e. when Amir al-Mu'mineen receives the news of the birth of Imam Hussein, or rather Rasulullah is waiting. He was waiting around the house of Fatima.
SubhanAllah.
And as soon as the narrations narrate, we have it narrated in Kitab Bihar al-Anwar, Allam al-Majlisi, Radwanullahi alayh, that as soon as Imam al-Hussein Salamullahi alayhi was born, naturally when a newborn child is born, the first thing they would do is cry. So Rasulullah hears the voice of this newborn child, or the sound of the cries. He says to his auntie, the daughter of Abdul Muttalib, the sister of Hamza, Safiya, says, "Oh auntie, bring me my child."
SubhanAllah.
Now here the auntie, whether knowing or unknowing, she says, he's just been born. We haven't prepared him. We haven't cleansed him. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Oh auntie, are you going to cleanse him? He has been cleansed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't need cleaning. He is purified. He is amongst the purified members of Ahl al-Kisa, who has been mentioned in the Holy Quran. So bring me my child. You don't need to clean him." So upon receiving Imam al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi, this shows the importance of the position of Imam al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi, and how much we need to hold our heads up high in honor and dignity when we say we wish to be accounted for as the servants of Imam al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi, because he held a prominent position next to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Rasulullah receives Imam al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi. He looks in his eyes. He kisses, he places his lips on the lips of Imam al-Hussain salamullahi alayhi. He kisses him. He prepares Imam al-Hussain in a way where the first feeding he received as his brother Imam al-Hassan was, to some narrations, from the tongue of Rasulullah or from the thumb of Rasulullah, placing it inside the mouth of Imam al-Hussain, and he received what usually children receive from as feeding from their mothers for that whole period that he was next to Rasulullah. So Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussain, from the early days of their birth, they would be spending the majority of their time with Rasulullah. Usually an infant spends the early days with the mother.
Okay.
I'm not saying that Rasulullah took away Imam al-Hassan and Imam Hussein from Fatima to Zahra. No, she played her role.
Yep.
But again, the majority of the time of Imam al-Hassan and Imam Hussein was next to their grandfather Rasulullah, and they would sleep alongside Rasulullah, one on the right and one on the left.
Wow.
They would wake up with him. They would be greeted by Rasulullah. They would be educated by Rasulullah. And one day, the very famous story where Archangel Jibreel descends upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sees that Rasulullah has sat Ibrahim on his right and Imam al-Hussein on his left, and he says, O Prophet of Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you, which one of those two do you favor most?
Ya Allah.
This is the test. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, each one holds a prominent position in my life, because Ibrahim is my direct son, and Hussein is my beloved, is the most beloved to my heart. Jibreel says, Allah commands you to choose one out of the other. He will not keep both for you. You will need to sacrifice one for the other. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam thinks ahead. He sees that Ibrahim, he is his son, he is part of him, but he doesn't have a role to play in the future of Islamic Ummah. But Hussein has a responsibility. So Rasulullah says to Jibreel, O Jibreel, I favor Hussein over Ibrahim.
Allah, subhanallah.
So months later, Ibrahim passes away, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is affected. He does grieve for Ibrahim, but he says that my grief is in line with the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he continues nurturing Imam al-Hussein. Why does he show so much love towards Imam al-Hussein? Because Imam al-Hussein salamullahi alayhi is that seed that Rasulullah planted for the future of the Islam.
Ahsant.
Because he knows there will be a day that there will come the offsprings of Abu Sufyan, who would continue the work of Abu Sufyan that was not finished in Uhud. And they will want to annihilate anything remaining of the name of Islam and the message of Islam, and they will attack, and it will be my grandsons Hassan and Hussein salamullahi alayhim who will revive and bring back to life that of which Benu Umayyah will try their best to distinguish and to kill and to annihilate. So here Imam al-Hussein salamullah alayhi, until the age of 6 or 7, alongside his brother, every time, as we mentioned in the case of Imam al-Hassan, they enter the masjid, Rasulullah is teaching or Rasulullah is speaking, delivering a sermon, they will attend every majlis, and Rasulullah will speak to them, he will educate them. And there are many narrations that speak that when Imam al-Hussein, for example, would enter the masjid, Rasulullah is praying, is leading salah, congregational prayers, salatul jama'ah, which is a wajib salah. Imam al-Hussein, being young, he comes, enters, and goes on top of the back of Rasulullah where Rasulullah is in sujood.
Subhanallah.
And he stays there. Rasulullah prolongs his sujood to an extent that after Rasulullah finishes his salah, companions come to Rasulullah and say, Ya Rasulullah, what happened? That was a long sujood. Did wahi come down upon you? Did Jibreel come down with a revelation of the verse? He would say to them, no, but my grandson Hussein would go on my back, and I did not want to interrupt him enjoying himself on my back. Is salah wajib, Ya Rasulallah?
Subhanallah.
Rasulullah wants to clarify that this Hussein is more important than your salah. This is the one that is going to preserve your salah. So here, and there are other images of how Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, through saying Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussein, Al-Hassan wal-Hussein Sayyida Shabab al-Jannah, he doesn't want to say that Hussein is from me like he is my flesh, my blood, my skin. Although that is apparent.
Of course.
But what he wants to say that Hussein is a continuation of the work of the prophets and the messengers, and he will revive my message and the message of Islam.
SubhanAllah, SubhanAllah. So we've discussed Rasulullah's connection, this beautiful essence of a connection from soul to soul with Imam Al-Hussain. Are there key significant occurrences between Amir al-Mu'mineen and his son Imam Al-Hussain? They spent 25 years together before the passing of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So what sort of major occurrences would you like to discuss through their
Very
life?
briefly, and I would encourage my brothers and sisters, especially the youngsters. Alhamdulillah, we live in an age where everything is available online. Regardless of the lectures and the workshops, there are many books and texts and references that one could refer back to receive more information about the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen and Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi. But as we said, Imam Hussein lived 7 years with his grandfather, or 6 or 7 years, and then after Rasulullah came time that he would spend more time with his mother, although very in the short period of time after Rasulullah. But the majority of the events, or the occurrences in the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Hussain and Imam al-Hussain, they played a very important, whether they were just observing and taking in how these events unfolded and how their father Amir al-Mu'mineen reacted towards them. Because these were events that were going to be kept as storage in their minds and then used later on to compare between the people of the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen and how Amir al-Mu'mineen dealt with the events and how they are going to be, although they are imams,
of course,
they have been granted that knowledge from Rasulullah and from their father, and they know what will happen and how they should, but it's the fact that they live at the time of their imam, their father as an imam, Amir al-Mu'mineen, so they will be educated, all the events, all the battles of Amir al-Mu'mineen. For example, when the first and the second and the third, they were ruling and they couldn't answer questions, they would come to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Imam al-Hussain, he would be there. For example, in the battles and the wars of Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam al-Hussain would be, for example, one of his advisors or one of his generals, taking care of a portion of the army, the left side or the right side. And they would be there to stand firm when their father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, wasn't able to get the help and the aid of the Muslims. Imam al-Hussain, alongside his brothers, would be there to support their father, Amir al-Mu'mineen. And there will be many more events that one could refer back to find the significance of the presence of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in the life of Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi.
Ahsan Sayyid Ali. Jazakallah. Thank you as always for this enlightening, documentary and talk. We cannot thank you enough for how much you're teaching us in these short amounts of times. So
this is all from the knowledge. It's nothing from me. It's from the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt. And whether we sit down here for many years to speak about the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt, we won't do justice. But we, inshallah, take lessons from these stories and these events to reflect upon in our lives and to make our lives, inshallah, better and to get closer to Allah and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam.
I mean, through the wasila of Imam Al-Hussain, we pray that many years you can continue to serve in his name, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
And thank you to all our viewers that join us week in, week out for this series. We look forward to seeing you soon. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.